In today's tier list, I'll be ranking all 134 Grail units from SSS all the way down to E. All of these Grail units have different roles and fit into different strategies, so the order in which the unit appears inside their tier does not matter. Before we jump into the tier list, let's go over the criteria I used to rank them. First and foremost, the powerful and unique effects each unit can offer. Because so many of these units do not have preference weapons, they will judge more strictly based on their stat lines. Next, I'll be looking at if they have preference weapons or what inheritable weapons they have access to. After that, I will consider if the unit is due for a refine, already has a refine, or if they are even qualified to get a refine, which could be the case for seasonal units with no preference weapons. I will also consider the unit's weapon type plus movement combo, so how unique it is and who they are competing with. For example, if there's a unit in the 3 to 4 star pool who has a similar or better stat line. I will also be considering how well these units compete with 5-star units at +0. So if a Grail unit is at +10, it's being completely outdone by a +0 5-star. The last thing is always build your favorite characters over anything else. Who cares if they're good? If you love the character, build them. I won't be going over the lower tiers in detail as this video would last forever, so let's jump right in with E tier. E tier is the bottom of the barrel. These are the units I would not recommend building in almost any situation. They are outdated, have already received a refine, or they aren't qualified to get a refine at all. D tier is full of units that are old, have less than great stat lines, or are desperately waiting for a refine. A lot of these units are outdone by units in the 3 to 4 star pool, or units higher on this tier list. Some notable units in this tier are Cormag, Astrum, Heath, and Sigrun, who should all be getting refines within a year. You may also notice several armors in this tier who were once considered quite good, but that was mostly due to arena scoring at the time, and unfortunately they no longer score well. Let's move on to C tier. C tier is where the tier list opens up, and we get some more unique weapon plus movement type combos, such as New Year's Air or Onsen Camilla. Also, we have some more recent Grail units who do not have preference weapons or optimal stat lines, which knocks them down a few tiers. Unfortunately, we also have some of my favorite units in this tier, such as Fallen Delthea, Joshua, Valter, and even Har. I will make note that Har is due for a refine within the next month or two, so once he receives that, he may skyrocket up the tier list. We have reached B tier, and this is where many good units reside. A lot of these units aren't the best in their weapon or movement type, but they are all solid investments. A lot of these units are capable of being used in several game modes. A majority of this tier is composed of units who received good refines or are currently waiting for refines. Some examples of this is Ursula, Garen, or Sias, who all got good refines and are now solid units. Or Kemp, Brunya, and Kronya, who have fallen off a bit but are due for refine soonish. This tier also includes a lot of gimmick units, as I like to call them, such as Iago, Sullen, Veld, or even Fallen Takumi. These units can have powerful effects, but they aren't consistent. We are now at A tier, and this is where I will begin to go into a more detailed analysis of these units. These units are all amazing units and definitely worth building if you're looking to fulfill the role they offer. A majority of these units are newer or recently got refines, though that isn't the case for all of them. Thumber Norn is our most recent free-to-play Lance Infantry, which is saying a lot because all of our other options are old units like Donald or Lucas. Summer Norn has a very solid stat line with great attack and speed and has access to good inheritable lances like Flowing Lance. If you're looking for an infantry lance unit, this is the best option available at the moment. After that, we have Valentine's Alyssa, who is a very unique weapon and movement type combo, being a staff armor. There's only one other unit in the game like that, which is Christmas Erica, but even then Valentine's Alyssa has some great options with her. She has a very optimized stat line, making her extremely bulky on defense and resistance, which means she can be a great far save unit, which is very unique as a staff unit. As you can see on the build I'm showing, she can be quite sturdy and difficult to take down, though as a staff unit she does have some problems, like the fact that she has to run a Wrathful Refine on her weapon, and she also doesn't have access to offensive or defensive specials, other than Miracle. Even so, Alyssa is extremely unique and it's not very likely that we'll be getting another staff armor anytime soon. Navarre is our oldest GHB unit this high on the tier list. He has been able to remain a great unit mostly to his niche as a reliable Gale Force unit. With the build I'm showing, Navarre can get his Gale Force down to 1 cooldown, meaning it's extremely easy and reliable to proc. The only problem with Navarre is that his stats aren't amazing compared to nowadays units, so you will need to heavily invest into him to make the most of him. Hilda is one of the many high attack and high resistance red mages. Fortunately for her, her preference weapon does pack quite the punch due to the fact that it can grant her dominant. This allows Hilda to be quite unique amongst all mages and can allow her to one-shot some annoying units, though her lack of speed will keep her from doubling in most situations. We have yet another red nuke mage in the form of Knos. Unlike Hilda, Knos' firepower comes from his true damage based off 20% of his or his opponent's resistance, whichever is higher. He also gets special accelerations turns 1 through 3, which means he can easily get access to powerful specials like Iceberg or Glacies. Knaus can definitely be a scary nuke who can wipe out units he has no right to be killing. But once again, he does struggle in the speed department unless you speed stack him, which in turn will take away from his resistance to true damage. Naesala is one of our newer GHB units. They are a very tanky green mage who can put out a ton of damage while also being difficult to kill. But they do have some negatives such as causing 15 recoil damage to their nearest ally or gaining access to doubles. Due to their middling speed, they're mostly reliant on quick riposte to double in the enemy phase, which isn't very reliable in today's meta. Even so, Naesala is an annoyance to kill and is a great mage tank if that's what you're looking for. We now run into our two bow options when it comes to far save tanks, Winter Ignatz and Felix. Both of these units are very similar, with the only major difference being Felix is blue while Ignatz is colorless. Either of these units can be great options for a free-to-play save unit, though of course they do have their downsides such as armor weaknesses. One great thing they have going for them is that they both have very solid speed stats, which means they can run Savvy Fighter, which can offer some damage reduction while also granting no follow-up. Linus is a great option for an infantry axe. His preference weapon gives him the stats he needs to smash through units while also taking full advantage of the enemy bonuses, turning them into penalties. He also is quite versatile and can be used on several different team types. He can be a great user of Battle Astra if you want to swap his C-skill to Times Pulse, so he always has it active at the beginning of each turn. Summer Leonie is our newest free-to-play Cav Archer, and she can do a great job at destroying enemies on teams like Cav lines. She has a great offensive stat line and has access to great inheritable bows, especially the newest one, White Cap Bow, which has a brave condition built in without losing any might. If you want to use her as a player phase unit, I'd recommend swapping out her lull for a trace skill and then watch as she murders your enemies. In a similar sense, we have Hatari Dean, who is a dagger cavalry unit, which is more rare than an archer. Dean also has great offensive stat line, but more importantly he has access to daggers, which have some of the best and most versatile inheritable weapons in the entire game. The build I chose to go with takes full advantage of Courtly Fant's built-in no follow-up to run a windsweep build. But Dean can also run a multitude of daggers that will give effectiveness against armored, cavalry, or even dragon units. This makes Dean extremely versatile and allows him to fulfill whatever role you need him to. We have another infantry axe unit, but this time it's Ninja Shamir. Ninja Shamir has an optimized stat line allowing her to have great speed and solid attack. This means she can run several different builds, such as the distant counter build I'm showing right now, or even a more offensive build that takes advantage of her Ninja Brave weapon. Either way, Shamir is a solid unit. Though I will say, if the tradition follows, we might get another infantry axe unit on the Ninja banner this year, so if you aren't a big Shamir fan, you might want to wait. Lance Cavalry is a very competitive weapon and movement type combo. There are tons of options, but somehow Finn has still proven to be unique. Finn is our only Lance Cavalry with a dual phase Brave weapon, which means he can be a great unit who can pack a punch in either phase. His good stat line combined with the lull built into his weapon allows him to even quad against many enemies. Another Lance Cavalry to make it into A tier is Patrine. Patrine offers something other Lance Cavs can't. She targets the foe's resistance instead of their defense. This means Patrine can slip past tanky units' high defense stats and still deal amazing damage. She also has effective against Beast, which is something only Brave Eliwood shares with her. The best part is this isn't even Patrine's final form. She should be getting refined within the next year. Let's talk about our only Beast unit in A tier, Fallen Morum. Morum is a great unit with a lot of unique aspects. First and foremost, he has a different transformation condition than any other Beast unit in the game, meaning he is easier to run in mixed teams. He also can debuff all enemies within 4 spaces for -6 to all stats while ignoring their bonuses. These two effects combined with the Beast Infantry effect makes Morum into a dangerous duelist. Unfortunately, Beast units don't have access to all the skills that other infantry units do, but even so, Morum is a great unit and can fit into several team types including Gale Force. Let's keep the Tellius train going with Young Boyd. Young Boyd is our most recent infantry axe unit with a preference weapon. He has a great offensive stat line with a buttload of HP, which is good if you are looking to offer some support in the form of infantry pulse. His preference weapon is a bit weird though, as it only has its full power on odd turns. Though when it is at full power, Boyd can slice through opponents, with a massive +10 to attack and speed, while also having 15% true damage. Personally, this is the build I like on Boyd as it allows him to go all in on odd turns, while still allowing him to be a solid unit with the desperation effect of Frenzy on even turns. Our last unit in A tier is going to be our new free-to-play archer, Summer Alencia. Summer Alencia is a unique unit not only due to the fact she has a flying archer, but also because she's a blue bow. She has an amazing stat line and comes with a great inheritable bow and white cap bow, which can allow her to quad against enemies she could beat in a speed check. Her flying mobility is not to be underestimated as it can allow her to deal with annoying fly units such as mages or even dancers. While there is another blue flying archer in the form of Summer Lin, she is 5-star seasonally restricted, so even if she does get a good refine, she will be difficult to merge up, unlike Alencia. Finally, we have hit S tier. S tier contains many of the best Grail units in the entire game. Many of these units offer powerful unique effects, or are one of the best units in their movement and weapon combination. First off, we have one of the most hyped free-to-play units of all time, Yanfei. Yanfei is a solid God Sword unit who has built-in distant counter and speed-based damage reduction. He also scores quite good in Arena, which led to many people building him. While Yanfei is a good unit, he can struggle when fighting against the most powerful units in the game, so you will need to make sure to support him well, especially in the speed department. One word of warning when it comes to Yanfei is that he is in the most competitive weapon plus movement combination, so there are many 5-star locked units who will outperform him pretty easily. We have one of the OG villains in Fire Emblem, Garneth. While we have many slow tanky red mages in Fire Emblem Heroes, we have few who have a solid speed stat. Garneth is not only a quick red mage, but he also has several powerful effects that make him great. His weapon has a gimmick that can stop non-magic foes from counterattacking, while also granting him a ton of attack and speed. This easily makes Garneth one of the better speedy red mages in the game, especially as a free-to-play unit. Next up is our Path of Radiance villain, Ashnard. Ashnard is a powerhouse sword flyer who can be extremely tanky while also debuffing enemies within 2 spaces, which offers a nice amount of support. He can run a build that lets him act as a distant counter tank, but personally I like using him alongside a far save unit so he can focus solely on the melee matchups. Just like Patrine, Ashnard will be getting a refine eventually, which means he'll be even better in the future. Marissa is an older GHB unit, whose excellent refine has made her into a very versatile infantry sword unit. What made Marissa rank so highly was the introduction of Vital Astra, which she can make great use of with her built-in Times Pulse and special-based true damage in her refine. Even then, Marissa is versatile enough to be a great unit on Gale Force teams as well. Now we have our most recent sword refine, Rutger. Rutger has truly lived up to his nickname, Cricker, with all the powerful special acceleration he has built into his weapon. His weapon allows him to spam out low cooldown specials like Vital Astra, or even make use of bigger specials if you prefer. He also has speed-based damage reduction, so he can take a hit and keep on fighting. Rutger has a ton of different builds he can run. He can do well with a distant counter build, where he stacks several layers of damage reduction, or even as a duelist. Dancer Eldigan is easily our best Grail dancer in the game. His stat line is excellent for game modes like Ether Raids, where he can do an excellent job of avoiding meatless defense-based isolation. He can also be used on offense on a Gale Force team with something like its Curtains to reduce his cooldown reduction. The only reason Dancer Eldigan isn't ranked higher is because he is mostly limited to Ether Raids, as outside of Ether Raids, other dancers can offer more than he can. Our best cavalry beast unit on the tier list is going to be Pan. Pan got one amazing refine that took her from a decent unit to a phenomenal one. Pan's refine can grant her up to plus 12 to all stats, an impact effect, a guaranteed follow-up attack, guard effect, effective against cavalry, and even plus 7 true damage. All these effects turn Pan into a monster who can be horrifying to try to tank, or even a mixed-phase beast who just won't go down. Pan is easily one of the best free-to-play beast units we've ever received. Here is our newest GHB unit, as of the recording of this video, Geralt. Geralt has some stiff competition, but even so he finds a way to be a great unit. He has an optimized stat line that gives him a massive attack stat and great defense. His weapon also gives him stats and a guaranteed follow-up attack. What really makes him stand out is his support effect, which inflicts panic and -6 attack and defense on the foe, with the highest attack and defense on the enemy team. It even affects all foes within 2 spaces of that unit as well. This is great because it is not only a powerful debuff, but it also doesn't have an HP condition, meaning you have a reliable way to always inflict panic on the enemy team. I hate to admit it, but Reeve is a fantastic anti-meta support unit. His powerful preference weapon allows him to inflict stall and -5 to all stats on the slowest foe and all foes within 2 spaces of them. This can completely shut down the enemy's strategy due to crippling some of the most powerful units in the game, like Legendary Sigurd, Yuri, or even Brave Seliph. While Duo Thor can do this as well, if you don't have her, Reeve is a great free-to-play option. Our final unit in S tier will be the original Grail Queen herself, Aversa. Aversa has remained an amazing support unit since her release. Her ability to inflict panic and -3 to all stats on the enemy team can be game-ending to any team who wants to rely on bonuses. While her refine didn't offer much when it came to support, it did do an excellent job of turning Aversa into a hard-hitting mage, meaning it's easier than ever to find a team slot for her, as she can now carry her weight in combat too. Double S tier are some of the best free-to-play units in the entire game. Many of these units are the best at their respective roles and can compare well even to non-free-to-play options. Many of these units, when they received their refines, confused the player base because they were just that good, while others were amazing right out of the box. This year has been full of amazing Axe Cavalry units, but even so, Walhart has found a way to stay amongst the best with his unique debuffing effects. What makes Walhart such a great unit is that he cannot be ignored. If he isn't dealt with, he can inflict a massive -7 attack and defense, and most importantly, flash on the enemy team, meaning you can have free reign to completely annihilate them without fear of dying to counterattacks. Walhart essentially forces the enemy team into player phase, which can be annoying and often difficult to deal with. Julius got one of the best refines the game has seen. He has easily become the best red mage tank in the entire game, even beating out 5-star locked options. Damage reduction alongside a ton of stats can make Julius extremely difficult to deal with, especially if you use a near save tank alongside him. He's definitely a unit who goes under the radar, and if you're looking for a good mage tank, look no further than Julius. Jamkey's Refine has made him into a massive cannon. Not only does it give the attack and speed he desperately needed, but it also allows him to have a guaranteed follow-up attack and to double before the foe can even counterattack, as long as he has 7 or more speed than the opponent. This does mean that Jamkey is going to want some premium investment to ensure he always wins the speed checks, but when he does, he will completely rip opponents apart. The guaranteed follow-up attack in his weapon combined with his high speed will allow him to look past running no follow-up. Instead, he can run a lull or even a tempo skill, granting him more stats and more power. If you run the build I'm showing here, he can even get Deadeye down to 1 cooldown, meaning he can fire it off before the foe can even counterattack. This allows Jamkey to punch holes in his foe. He also works extremely well with meta supports like Grail, who will allow him to quad before the foe can even touch him. Our last unit in double S tier is going to be the Black Knight himself. Black Knight has been a great unit since release and has gotten better over time, especially after his refine. While his refine wasn't exceptional, it did give him exactly what he needed: special cooldown count -1. This means that Black Knight can retaliate with a Black Luna on every single hit, making him deadly to attack into. The introduction of Savvy Fighter has made Black Knight into a great choice as a save unit, as he can now stack speed and become quite fast. Savvy Fighter can fix many of his problems, granting him damage reduction alongside no follow-up, and allowing him to shine as a far save or near save unit. The time has come. We have reached the pinnacle of Grail units, triple S tier. These are the 3 units I consider to be the best Grail units in the entire game. None of these units are necessarily better than each other, as they all fulfill different roles, and the reason I think these units are the best is mostly due to the fact that they fit well into the current meta and perform just as good and sometimes even better than their 5-star locked competition. Let's start off with Young Innis. Young Innis is a powerhouse archer who has an extremely meta-relevant effect built into his weapon. He can pierce damage reduction whenever his special procs. This means that Innis isn't reliant on Deadeye and instead can run lower cooldown specials like Ruptured Sky, which he can pre-charge if he wants to. He also has a very solid offensive stat line to go alongside the additional stats and true damage his weapon offers. Even after 1 year after his release, Young Innis is still one of the best infantry archers in the entire game, with only a few premium 5-star locked units being better than him. Next up we have the Wall, Arden. Even though Arden was one of the earlier Grail units we received, he has proven to be resilient and has aged like fine wine. Arden is an amazing savior unit, which is very relevant in our current savior meta. He does an excellent job as a near save unit and can even be ridiculously good as a far save unit, even though he has an abysmal resistance stat. This is largely due to his ridiculous HP pool and his amazing refine. His refine not only grants him a dual phase brave weapon, but also stats and a guard effect. This allows Arden to run all types of builds and perform amazingly. It wasn't until the introduction of Summer Edelgard that Arden was dethroned as the best sword armor in the game, but even so, he is an amazing merge project, especially due to the fact he will cost you 0 orbs. Our final unit in our Grail tier list, and my personal favorite, is going to be Naesala. Naesala got one of the most powerful refines in all of Fire Emblem Heroes. He got everything I possibly could have wanted and more. Never did I think they would go this far with Naesala. He received +10 attack and speed, 15% speed based true damage, dual phase special acceleration, and half of no follow-up. Naesala's weapon is so stacked it can easily stand up next to the new unit's preference weapons. If that wasn't enough, Naesala is a very unique weapon and movement type combo, as the only blue flying beast in the entire game. I would also argue he is the best flying beast in the entire game as well, and that's coming from an owner of a +10 pirate Tibber. Naesala can fulfill 2 roles extremely well. First, he is an amazing tank buster. With the build I'm currently showing, he can slice right through the most powerful tanks in the game, not only due to his true damage, but also because he can consistently hit with 2 cooldown specials. Secondly, he is one of the best Gale Force users in the game. He can very consistently activate Gale Force with a touch of help or a quick and pull seal. If you need any proof of just how powerful Naesala is, go check out my showcase video, where he kills plus 10 near save tanks even through color disadvantage. I'll leave a link in the description down below. If you are looking for a great Gale Forcer, Tank Buster, or just love Beast units, Naesala is one of the best Grail units to build in the entire game. And with that, my Grail tier list is complete. 134 heroes ranked from SSS all the way down to E tier. Do you agree with my rankings, or would you change it up? Which hero do you think deserves to be one tier higher, and which hero do you think is the best Grail unit in the game? I'd love to hear about the Grail units you've built, and which one is your favorite, so make sure to drop a comment down below. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and subscribe. It helps destroy the evil that is the YouTube algorithm and helps my channel grow. This has been Oblivion, and I'll catch you all later with more Fire Emblem Heroes.